Hi, I'm Coach Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're back on deck. It's been a long time, but let's get back into it. There's a lot of people breaking up out there having relationship issues, and I'm here for you. Been doing it for a long time. It's changed a little bit in the sense that it's been about 6 years since I started this channel. Been doing these live streams. I've almost done 1,000 of them. And I get a lot of repeat clients that are coming back to me now for other issues in life because breakups aren't defining you, right? It's just a defining moment. So today we're going to get into the worst types of breakups. This is something that is counter to what a lot of people come to me for, because the number one thing a lot of people want to know is, hey, will they come back? What are my chances? And one of the things is, if you're in one of these worst type of breakups, the worst types of breakups with an umbrella theme to them, is that it doesn't mean that they'll never come back. I'm just saying that these are the ones that are more difficult to come back from. And the reason why it's good to know this is a lot of times when you're in the middle of these, you don't really know the dynamic of it. You just broke up. You don't really look at it from the scope that I look at it. So when I'm looking at a breakup, number one, I need to know your story. I just heard some other coach that I respect, that I've seen on YouTube for years. I actually know him personally, and we talk sometimes. He was like, I don't need to know your story. Just tell me how the breakup happened, and I'll just give you advice. Personally, I think that's a shitty way to go about it, and I'll tell you why. Number one, your story counts. So for example, if you're like, oh, I'm in a long distance relationship. Okay, so how did it start? I want to know that for some context. I also want to know who this person is character-wise, and who you are character-wise, and how you see the world, how you perceive what happened. It's not my job to question that or make you a better person, but if you're going to get back together, for example, if someone's stubborn, if someone has a job where they make a lot of money, these things contribute to you getting back together. There's variables involved. There's very nuanced things. What's happening now, I've seen this a lot, because people will come to me, they're like, oh, I talked to this other coach, I talked to a therapist, and that's fine. Get your opinions. What happens now is we only have an hour. It's $200 or $300. Rye Flint, what's up, hon? How are you? We only have, we have an hour. It's $200 or $300. So let me just, and you're on the fucking clock, right? Like they're watching. So you're wondering, all right, I better get it all in. A lot of times your first session with a therapist or coach to talk about, I think you should probably do 2 hours, right? There's a lot of wreckage on the road. There's a lot for you to divulge. You've been talking to family and friends. And let me tell you something, family and friends do not want to talk about your stuff for 2 or 3 hours unless they're a therapist or coach, unless it's their jam, okay? In that 2 hours, right? In that 2 hours, what you need to do is just throw up all your feelings and everything that's been going through your mind. So, you look at it, you go to the bathroom, you release that waste from you. If you held your waste, right, you wouldn't feel well. And this is what happens to a lot of people with their emotions and their problems. It's like, oh, let me just tell someone for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And then what the person does, they stop you and they just give you a quick answer about what they would do, or just go hook up with someone else. So my point is, when you're looking at these things, and I'm about to divulge which are in the comments. When you look at these things, I'm not telling you, oh, that's what happened to me, they're never going to come back. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that these particular narrative themes, if you will, or archetypes, people don't understand them, okay? And so when they're in the breakup, they're just telling their story and they're just upset, they're in love, they want the person back. They're not really seeing the dynamic of it, right? And it's important to see that, okay? And this is what I can help you with. The biggest problem with any problem that the human has is perspective, okay? So your perspective is going to vary based on what? Based on your life experience, based on what you want to believe. Now, if you're thinking in an emotional state, which a lot of people do when they're in a breakup, right? I want them back. They did this to me. There's blame, there's hurt. You got to have someone from the outside that can observe it for what it is. That way, moving forward, the greatest thing I can do for you, can we identify if this is even a good relationship to get into again? Either way, you're paying me to advocate for whatever you want, right? So I was just talking to someone about this earlier today. I said, look, let's say someone comes to you and you're a personal trainer, right? And this guy wants to get jacked. He wants to get to 250 pounds. He wants to bench press all this stuff. And he starts taking steroids, right? It's not a good path probably, right? Someone else out there might say, oh no, you could do that, whatever. But the personal trainer is probably going to still train him and let him do whatever he wants because he's getting paid for it. Now, what the interesting thing is, like in a breakup, sometimes I'm in the middle of it and I'm like, this is not a good relationship to chase. It's not my job to tell that person that. But what I will do is unpack it in a way that they see, hey, this is what's going on here. Now that you see it clearly, do you still want to go after this or do you still want to approach it the same? All right. So let me get into these topics really quick. Number one, identity changes. Okay, so this counts for friends and family too. Okay, the minute someone gets a new career, a new job, a new amount of money, a new look, right? They change. Okay, titles are a big deal. Husband, wife, lawyer, doctor, teacher, ice cream shop owner. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing in life and the way things are. People change identities all the time. Sometimes people keep the same identity for 50 years. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When you're in a relationship and an identity changes, especially a job, a religion, and usually identity changes are sparked by moving, again, career, job, friends, new friends. The person you fell in love with or started dating changes enormously. Okay, this isn't like something that you're like, wow, you're a different person. Their perspective, the things they used to do or find fun, the foods they used to eat. Think about the health nuts out there. Someone gets a little chubby and they go on a health kick, right? They start going yoga, they start exercising, they start watching what they eat. And then they hang out with a friend that, pounds French fries, hot dogs, hamburgers all day. And they're like constantly judging them. They don't want to hang out as much. They're constantly... All of a sudden, the friend's like, wow, what happened to you? You can't eat a cheeseburger anymore, this, that, and the other. Identity change. See how now you can understand. You're like, wow, when someone takes on this identity, they change. So when you have an identity change in a breakup, it's very difficult to turn that around. Now, is there a silver lining to it? Sure. Sometimes with identity changes, the person after 6 months or a year doesn't like that identity, or they miss you, they meet you halfway on the bridge. There's options here. But if their identity change is something where they're better than you, for example, they make a lot more money, they get in a lot better shape, they're not living at home and you're living with your parents, those are tough to overcome because you can't change it in a day, right? So someone I just talked to recently, he's got a job online, lives with his parents in his early 20s. No judgment, by the way, because I totally get the fact that it's expensive out there, you're saving money and whatnot. But if the person you're with leaves the nest themselves and they go out to another state and they get a higher level job than you, you're not going to be able to turn that around quick. Right? This happens with college sweethearts. So what happens is that one's in law school and one's a business major. The one in law school, the thing about law school or accounting, it's very clear what you're going to do. You're going to be a lawyer of somewhat, right? I would assume. So they come out, they're a lawyer, they're making money, they're really busy, whatnot. You come out, you have a business degree, and you kind of just sort of like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, and you get a job right away. The other one's making a ton of money. That's tough to bridge that gap. But when you were in college, you were in the same boat. You're both university students. You with me? So the identity changes. It's not that there's no hope. It's just to bridge that gap or to fix that is difficult. And a lot of times people don't see that as an identity change. They look at it like, oh, I did something wrong. Oh, this person changed. They get bitter. They blame. It's like, no, this person got a new job. And you don't go along with that. Number 2, long distance with no return. So long distance relationships, number 1, I'm not a big fan unless there's a finish line. Like in 3 months, we're going to meet up. In 5 months, we'll get married, whatnot. There's got to be finish lines, but also long distance with no return. So it's like, oh, someone's moving to Florida, you live in California, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll move there in 6 months or 5 months. Now, here's the interesting thing about long distance. If you got an adventurous partner, they're not going to want to be on their own for too long. If you got a partner that's flirtatious or really good looking, they're going to get a lot of attention. And there's going to be a lot of temptation because people get lonely and they want to hook up. But long distance with no return, it's like once you break up and you're like, all right, now they broke up. You're not going to move out there right when you broke up. That's a little bit desperate. Those are tough because you feel like, oh, I put in a lot of work on this, right? I've been there for this person for so long and now they just left me abandoned and hanging. It's tough. And you can't just go move there or you might look creepy and desperate. So those ones are tough because they're not really fixable right away. Also, if you still have attraction in the relationship, which is one of the strongest flames of an ongoing relationship, okay? People say, oh, it's not all about attraction. Well, it's a big part, or else you just be friends. So if you have long distance, yeah, you can meet on Zoom. It's not the same thing. Or when you have problems and you break up, there is a chance that first week where you get 2-3 days apart or a week apart and you miss each other and the other person's still attracted to you. And if they're still attracted to you, guess what? There's a good chance that you guys can hook up and rekindle things. Long distance doesn't allow that right away. So those are tough. Number 3, high levels of abuse and manipulation. Okay? These are the worst. The problem with high levels of abuse and manipulation, it's a wheel people get in, and it's really hard for them to get out. Because manipulation especially, they start to believe that they deserve that abuse. They feel like, oh, if I leave, this person's going to be nothing without me. This is common with drug abuse or alcoholics. And the only answer in these breakups is for you to get a full-fledged year, 6 months away from that person with zero contact to cleanse your mind again. You don't realize your mind's stained with all these things that they've imposed on you. I do hypnosis sometimes, right? Your words count. By the way, commercials, TV, it's all a form of trance and programming. That's why they call it programming, okay? What you're taking in is affecting your thoughts and your experiences and how you act. So the reality is when you're with someone abusive or manipulative, people from the outside are like, what the hell are you doing? The person in it is completely mesmerized because they're constantly being stimulated with actions, drama, and it's hard to get out of that wheel and catch your breath. Like I said, those particular relationships, people go back for the wrong reasons, but to get out of them, those are the worst types of breakups because these people that are manipulative, just like someone's talented at basketball or someone's talented at math, being manipulative in a relationship is a talent for some people, okay? It's something they're good at. And if the other person is weak at that or a good subject to manipulation or naive, no bueno. Eduardo Martinez, we appreciate you so much. Also, how about them Dodgers? Wow, Eduardo, you made my day with that super chat. I'm back on deck, man. Got a new camera, got a team now, and I will be doing more live streams. And the plan is, Eduardo Martinez, is to do something I call office hours. So what I'm going to do is, since it's so much easier to take live calls using this StreamYard, I'm going to give people 10 minutes, and you have any problem, not just breakups, any problem, we can go through it. And you don't need to necessarily show your face, because who wants to be exposed, right? Because I've had so many people come on the live streams before and they go, can you take that down? So that's the plan, Eduardo. Good to hear from you, bro. I'm happy you're doing well. To be perfectly honest, I'm a Giants fan. So I grew up in the Bay Area originally and went to my first San Francisco Giants game when I was probably like 5. So I'm an anti-Dodger, but I don't like the Yankees either. But saying that, one thing I appreciate about Dodgers fans is you guys are loyal and you're real fans. You had a hell of a team this year too. So cool. Yeah, office hours is what I'm probably going to call it. We're going to get it on deck real soon, and I'm excited about it because I think that I need to do something different because I'm getting bored with all the breakup advice too. And right now I help people with a lot of different things besides that. So I got a lot of clients that are more regular. That's why I haven't been doing as many videos. But I'm tired of the generalized fucking non-detailed videos of like feminine, masculine, all these things. You're finding a lot of people are confused about their problems because they're not finding solutions. They're just finding more generalizations. So that's my rant. Good to hear from you, Mr. Martinez. Cheating where they leave you for another. So number 4, this sounds obvious, the worst types of breakups, cheating where they leave you for another. The reason I worded it like that is because sometimes there's cheating where they don't leave you. And sometimes people can reconcile and find a way to forgive in those situations. And the people from the outside are all pissed off, but it's up to you to have your own morals and values and what you accept and what you don't accept. Mistakes happen sometimes. I remember there was someone that used to be on the live show. Mistakes don't happen with cheating. And I believe they can, right? I think people can be forgiven and people can move on from that. A lot of relationships have cheating. And the thing about cheating, it's way more prevalent than anyone knows. And women are better at hiding it. So that one, when I say when they leave you for another, the reason I'd add to that is sometimes at some point, someone knows that their partner is someone that cheats and they just accept it, or they've looked the other way. And so in doing that, once the person leaves, they feel like they really got done wrong because they've been putting up with that shit for a long time. And they thought, well, I put up with that all the time and you still left me for another. So that's a dark path back. Rather than when someone cheats and they're sorry for it and they say they don't like the other person as much. Ironically, I've noticed not all the time, especially in people in 20-something relationships, if they're with someone that they find highly attractive, of high value to them, I hate using the word high value because it's so overused, highly attracted to them, right? And the person cheats, in some cases, they're more attracted to them than ever before. They're more apt to try harder because they don't want to lose that person. And they feel like, wow, that person's so hot or good looking. I understand why they cheated. I know that's a weird perspective for some other people that are more conservative out there. I've been doing this a long time. I'm just saying it's real talk. The reality is when the person actually leaves for another person, that's a deeper rejection than someone saying, I fucked them, right? So I think that's one of the harder ones. And then especially when people believe like, oh, we could have made it work, or you could, I've had women tell me, I wish you would have hid it better. Like, why was it so easy to find out? So that's another one. This one, actually, people blindly overlook. Attraction has been completely lost. Like, you haven't been having intimacy. If you're having intimacy like once a month, there's probably not a lot of attraction. The only reason otherwise than that is it could be you have 3 kids, you have a house payment, you know, you got all these other things. You got a aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa that's sick in the hospital. You got too much shit going on and it's just too busy. That's possible. And that's why when I tell people to write their stories and like, let's go over it, because that's a whole different thing. But for the most part, when attraction has been completely lost, and it could be that you let yourself go, you got really big. It could be that they changed, the identity change, loses attraction, and you're just not aware of it. But when I talk to someone, I can tell when attraction's off by the level of intimacy they're having. We used to see each other 5 times a week. Now we see each other, 1 time a week, and it's really hard to get a hold of. Attraction's off. Okay, usually. And the thing about attraction, you can't snap your fingers or go on YouTube and go, oh, if I say this crafty, clever line, I'll get them back. It's like, no, let's talk. Like, you're not going to change the way you look or you act. So attraction is kind of a 2 or 3 part thing, right? Attraction, especially when women are attracted to men, it's not just raw looks, right? It's also the way someone carries themselves, how they present themselves, their status. For women, sorry to say, it's usually more raw looks. That being said, it's just like if you work with someone that's attractive and they get away with more at work or school, right? So attraction has been completely lost. Now, there's another caveat to this topic. Attraction being completely lost, right? Sometimes when you started the relationship, you're like, wow, I can tell him. I've had people go, oh, I knew she was out of my league. That's a horrible way to be in a relationship. So if that's the case where you're like, wow, this woman's way above me. She's such a notch, as they used to say, or a dime, or, she's better looking than me. If you believe that while you're in the relationship, you're already doomed. Okay? Because you're going to make that true. And it's going to become a problem later on. Number 6, this is one also when I talk to people, they don't realize they checked out a long time ago and just stayed in for material reasons such as money. This is more common in marriages and long-term relationships. Again, the other person might be very comfortable with a relationship that is sexless or lack of intimacy. Like they just look at it like, oh, that's just how things are when we get to a certain age, or that's just how marriage is. But that just means the other person kind of checked out. Some people are more comfortable with just becoming friends that sleep together, and the other person, like, at some point someone cracks. So the intimacy, the kindness to each other, when it's off. If it's been off for 2-3 years and you just leaned into that, and then someone comes to the door and they're like, look, what's going on? Can we fix this? It's been 3 years. When that person makes the move, they don't need to go through a lot of drama. I've actually seen this with women before where they've been in a marriage. Men too, actually, but more with women, where they've been in a marriage and it's been a very secure marriage. They're happy with the guy. They care about them. They've just lost attraction, but they've gotten bored. But they're in it because they have a house together, because maybe they have kids together. There's all these other entanglements. And that's okay. Those are reasons to stay together. Those are admirable reasons. On the flip side, some people, they start to go, wait a minute. Life's too short. I want to have more fun. Now, the other person on the other end of that has a knee-jerk reaction to immediately try to do something that's extremely fun or out of character. And then the person that's been checked out goes, that's not who you are. It's too late. It's too late. And that's a really difficult breakup, because the other person's thinking, well, I was comfortable with this lack of intimacy. I was comfortable with this predictable way of living. And what happened to you? Because we're married. Those are hard, because when someone's been checked out, they're not going to get back with you anytime soon. So let me go back through these topics. We got 5 on deck. Rye Flint, Eduardo Martinez. Anyone else that wants to throw a comment, throw it in. I'm happy to be back. Like I said, if you have a question, you want to jump on a call, it's extremely easy on live streams and StreamYard to do this. And I'm just going to throw it up here. And I'll take a live call. And if you have a question or something like that, we can talk about it for 10 minutes, and you do not need to be on camera. So it's kind of a really nice feature that I didn't used to have when I did live streams. And if you have a question about something outside of relationships or breakups, throw it my way. Let's see if we can unpack it. A lot of times what you're looking at is alternative thinking. I have this problem, but you're looking at it from one direction. And so when you bring someone else in and they're a problem solver like myself or solution-based like myself, because it's my job to do so, we can open up the playing field. And what happens is maybe I suggest something and you go, no, I'm not going to do that. So then what are you going to do? So now what your brain goes, oh, let me come up with a few more options. So you need to counter that. Even if you don't agree with me, it's a good way to do it. Thanks, Rye Flynn. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. You're always in my thoughts, hon. So let me go back over these because some people might be triggered out there like, oh shit, I'm in a long distance relationship. There's no return. Let me tell you ways that these can work out or ways that these can possibly, I don't want to say positive because no breakups generally all positive, but where they've worked out before. Okay, so it's not all negative. I'm just saying these are the worst types. And the worst type to me, the worst type of breakup, hands down. And for the 5 on deck, let me know what you think is the worst type of breakup, please. Please chime in. This is a live stream, so can we get interactive here? So, to me, hands down, the worst breakup, I'll tell you in a few minutes. All right, so number 1, identity changes. This is one thing that it's hard to overcome. It's more hard to overcome if someone becomes a pet shop owner and someone else becomes a cop. The reason why that is because they're such opposites, right? They're such opposites. I mean, there's not a lot of common ground there, right? If someone makes $10 million in a day from a stock trade and you both were making $30,000 a year and that person's highly selfish and they're like, wow, I'm going to go travel the world. That's a hard one to overcome. They have an identity change. I'm rich, not we rich, right? Okay, so when does it work? Someone tries on an identity, they go to a new job, they make new friends, they start hanging out, they start drinking. I remember I saw this before. Friend of a friend, she started in the banking industry and she just changed. She started dressing more professional and making more money, started disregarding her boyfriend, started being almost embarrassed to invite him to events. But then this job that she ended up losing the job and realizing some of those friends weren't very good friends and she didn't like the job as much. So sometimes what I mean by that, someone can try on a uniform or a new identity and not like it. And then a year later, 6 months later, realize, hey, that was really crappy of me. And they can come back to the person realizing. But the thing about identity change, they need to try it out for a little bit, right? Long distance with no return. The way long distance ends up working, if you broke up, is that you let that person go and B, you, as cliche as it sounds, work on yourself, right? You work on yourself. I'm so tired of hearing that because it's so vague. But you do the things to improve yourself. You let that person go. That person misses you. And they also realize the value in the relationship you had. But the thing is, in identity change and long distance also, the other person needs to sit in the breakup, okay? To realize what went wrong and what didn't go wrong. They also need to miss you. All right, 3, high levels of abuse and manipulation. And when I say abuse, I'm talking verbal too. So it doesn't have to just be physical. Threats are abuse. Threatening things where they don't do anything, but they threaten you, that's abusive. So high levels of abuse and manipulation, this is the worst breakup to me. It's the worst because manipulation on these levels, it can really scar a person for long periods of time. And the person's literally hypnotizing you into faulty, ill beliefs to control you. It's control. is what it is. And when you're in the middle of it, and it's almost like Spider-Man put a web around you, you just have to leave that relationship and not come back, and leave for a while and have zero contact. These are ones you do not want to get back with. And it's going to take you 3 or 4 months of complaining, whining about all these things they did to you. Letting people know, like, do you know what they did to me? You might have to be a victim for a month, 2 months, whatever. Get the hell away from them. Because like I said, some people are extremely good at manipulation. And you got to get out. It's the worst ones. Cheating where they leave you for another. Now, on the flip side of this, some people would say, well, I'd rather know than not know. And I would rather know it's over. Because like if someone's cheating where they leave you for another, it's going to hurt a lot, but it's fucking over. If you have some self-respect for yourself, it's over. You're going to lick your wounds. You're going to be upset. You're going to cry for months. Cool. Don't start tracking them on Instagram. The beauty in this one is like I said, there's no mystery here. They're with someone else. So stop driving by the house and being like, oh shit, maybe I'll run into them. Attraction has been completely lost. Sometimes people are just blind to this one. They're just like, they're completely like on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the attraction of this person? It's especially hard for people that are highly attracted to the other person still. Attraction has been completely lost. Signs of this: lack of intimacy, lack of attention, lack of effort, not wanting to invite you to events where it's public. Okay? And these people that have this situation, they're oblivious. A lot of men are oblivious to this. They're like, I don't get it. I want them back. When you talk to me, I can tell when this happened. I can tell. Now, do I sit there and go, oh yeah, attraction was lost, you need to look better? No. You need to unpack that on your own. You need to come to that conclusion on your own. Because it's not my job. Because what am I telling you? Oh, I think you're unattractive? No, because everyone's attracted to different things and everyone finds beauty in different things. Someone might say, oh, this is a good looking person or not. I don't know. It's opinion based. That being said, when you're in a relationship where attraction has been completely lost, it's a tough breakup. Because like I said, you can't change your looks in a day. You can't change your attitude and personality, and they have now typecasted you. Those ones are tough. The way to come out of that is you take that and you go, you know what? I'm going to get a personal trainer. I'm going to fucking get a new look. I'm going to talk to a coach and see if I can get my confidence up. You rewire that brain. You improve yourself, not for them, for you. Get your confidence back on deck. Number 6, they checked out a long time ago and just stayed in for material reasons such as money. So in that particular case, if they did, that's your leverage. I don't like saying that, but if you're in a marriage or in a long-term relationship and they've been checked out a long time and you're in the middle of a divorce, you better not give them everything and lay down. I've seen men do this many times where they're like, oh, she can take the house, oh, she can take that, and they think they're going to win the woman over by doing that, and they regret it later on. In that particular case, if you want to get back together, you go, hey, look, we can get divorced, this is going to work out, but I'm not going to give you everything. I'm getting my lawyer, and this is going to be divided. And so that's where the power is in those situations. That being said, when someone's checked out a long time, and the other person is completely comfortable with that, I highly recommend therapy or coaching, because those people have a lot more to let go. It's going to take a while because they look at it, they got blindsided, and what was normal and okay for them, routine wise, because that's what it is. Like, you're in a routine, everything's safe and sound. You seem to be supporting each other. It seems to be fine to you, but to them for 2 or 3 years, it's been boring, uneventful, no passion left. And it's hard for you to gather that they had such a different perspective, and you can really take that personal. And that's another one you can't flip right away. So I got 4 on deck. Anyone want to chime in and throw me a question? Throw me a question. Anything goes. But it's good to be back. Got a new camera from a friend of mine here, so the production's going to be a little bit better, I hope. But otherwise, yeah, it's good to be back on deck. And just out of curiosity, the 4 on deck, what's the worst breakup you've had? And I'll divulge the worst one I've had. Or maybe not. I don't know if I want to share that. You know what's interesting about breakups is sometimes your worst breakup is the one that you caused or you left. Like, for example, the one that got away, right? Someone might say that. But sometimes the one that got away is completely your fault because you broke up with them or you made things so bad that they broke up with you. Sometimes, like, the worst breakup can change years later. You know what I mean? That being said, if you're a positive person like myself, it's all happening for a reason. It's all growth. It's all progress, in the sense that if you're breaking up with a lot of girlfriends, then there's something wrong with you, right? If your relationships are a reflection of you and how you handle things. I think the worst one is dun 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 dun. For me, it would be high levels of abuse and manipulation, hands down. They're the hardest to break away from. Finding out they dumped you for somebody else, however, even though it will hurt most, at least you'll skip the mystery and social media lurking phase. I'd rather know the truth. I never got it. That's a tough one. That's never happened to me directly. Benjamin Godfrey. How you doing, Benjamin? All right, well, give me your point, Benjamin. BG. I think being dumped for somebody else, one thing that makes it much harder in this day and age is social media, because you can track these people, right? I've had plenty of clients who are like, yeah, I know it's bad, but I've been tracking the guy or I've been tracking the woman. It's like, you know, like, come on, dude. Like, that's, if you wanted the one piece of advice that people don't follow, that's simplistic advice, but people really don't do it, and it's the most detrimental in any breakup situation, is following your ex on social media. Hands down. Once you break up, you don't want to know nothing. Oh, it's immature. Oh, I don't want them to think that I'm up. No, you're broken up. If you see them on social media, you still view them as with you. So psychologically, it fucks you up, man. That's your girlfriend. Even though you broke up 2 weeks ago, your mind can't do that right away. So, that's the number one thing that people don't do that's very difficult. If someone's with someone new, like I said, the silver lining in that is there's no turning back if you have self-respect. They're going to have to come back to you, and they're going to have to come back to you wanting you back and saying sorry. Was married 19 years. BG, that's a nice run. That is a nice run. In 2024, if you could have a 19-year relationship, guess what, bro? You're doing something right. I know that doesn't sound good, just like a 19-year career in the NBA or baseball or you know what I mean? Guess what? That's not easy. It's not easy, man. I'm sure in those 19 years, you know, there were some good ones mixed in. So give yourself some credit for that one, Holmes. Good. Listen, in the 21st century, hey, relationships long term, guess what? What's happened with everything, Benjamin? What's happened with everything? Everything's gotten shorter attention spans. Someone goes on YouTube, they got a problem. It's like, oh, let me give you 100 different fucking views, right? I'm on YouTube. They go on, you know what I mean? They're married. Oh, let me get the opinion from 8 different specialists. It's really hard for people to stick into relationships. People change. People do change. That identity change I just said, it could be from a friend, it could be from a job. And then what you got to look at is like, all right, what am I standing on right now? But if you did 19 years, that's an achievement in itself. That's not to be looked down upon. Did you guys have kids? People do change, man. And you know what? It's okay. Don't fight it, because it's human nature. It's the way things are. It's evolution. Fucking hurts. But you have a choice too when people change, how you want to react to that. If it's a change you really don't like, if it's a change you can't deal with, because guess what? When people are adults, usually they don't like you trying to change them. They're growing on, but change is something you adapt to. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm happy you got to jump on. I got 2 kids. Well, congratulations on that, man. That's a blessing. Right? Good for you, man. And you always have that. You always have that. So just out of curiosity, BG, and all your experience, what do you think's the worst type of breakup from what I've mentioned here, or maybe a different one? Yes, sir. I think the one that, if I had to say the one that people don't see clearly enough is probably the identity thing and the attraction one. When they're in the middle of this identity change thing, that's a loaded question. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Well, they're all loaded questions when it comes to this show. Are you having any trouble with anything right now that you have a question or you want to get my perspective? Happy to answer. Funny how looking back at it, but I remember asking this ex if she was leaving me for somebody else, and she stared into my eyes with blank stare. It's as if she told me the truth without saying a word. Ooh, I felt that, Eduardo. I felt that through my back. Yeah. Well, I used to teach public speaking, and I forgot what it was. It's only like 20% of communication is verbal. What about body language and the little tells in your eyes? That's like 70% of it. That's why texting is such a mind fuck. When people do texting, you can't see someone's face. You don't realize how much you're reading off that face subliminally. And so right there, Eduardo, that's that. And you know your girlfriend really well. So when she looked at you like that, she didn't want to say it, but you knew it by the way she reacted. You also get an energy sense, just like if you walk up on a dog that looks unfriendly and, you get goosebumps, you're getting little energy reads off who you're with because you actually vibe with them so often, when the vibe's off. No, I'm just dealing with loneliness. It's tough, bro. Guess what, though? What I would say is that lean into the loneliness in the sense of it's okay. We all have lonely moments. I think people could agree on this live stream right now that I think when you're in a moment of loneliness, and let alone you were married 19 years, so this is a bit extreme. There's a void there. Right? If you're lonely, go on a walk. One thing I'd say is it's better to be lonely, in my opinion, while you're doing something productive, whether that's cleaning your room with the music on. There's a lot of things you can do alone that are productive or better than sitting in your house watching TV, like watching a live stream. It gets better. You sound positive, dude. Just know that we've been there, man. I've been there, and it's tough, man. Life tests you. It does. I remember I was talking to this hypnotherapist years back. And I wouldn't say I felt lonely, but it was just, I was in the middle of a tough time in my life. But that was part of it. And she was like, man, she goes, you know what? I think you should just get a dog. And I was thinking, it's not gonna do the trick. Although I do love dogs. Just get a dog. I would say that helps, but it's one of those. Sometimes people give you an answer like that, and you're like, nah, that wasn't what I was looking for. I don't, like hence the person that's the cat lady, right? It's like they give up on humans and just get 6 cats. I was like, I love dogs, but I'm not giving up on human interaction. The ex-girlfriend I'm speaking of went through an identity change a couple of days into the breakup. She got her first tattoo, pierced her ears, did her hair differently, began wearing makeup. That's crazy, isn't it? I think that those identity changes are more common in the 21st century just because you're exposed to so much more stuff, especially people in their 20s. Like, I'm 43 now. I didn't grow up with all this stuff, all these opinions, all this shit out there. I mean, I'm not saying it's all negative. It's just that if you got a glass of water, right? And let's say I poured in some red dye, some yellow dye. Let me pour in some ashes from an ashtray. Let me pour in some salt, some pepper. That's what you're doing when you go on social media sometimes, right? You're putting this in your mind, that in your mind, this in your mind. When you go on YouTube and you let them search for you, I gotta be aware of this. I go on YouTube sometimes, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. A lot of it's just gossip or things like that. I gotta stop for a minute. Because the minute you start clicking, you're putting in a little bit of this, a little bit of this, your mind can't get congruent. And a lot of times that's our biggest problem when we're off, okay, is the congruence. When you're at your best, it's very congruent in your life. It's like, oh, okay, let's say someone's a garbage man or a sanitation worker or something like that, whatever you call that. My dad was a truck driver for 30 years. All my uncles, they're all Teamsters, right? Tough job, right? Oil all over their hands, uniform, always complaining about the job, always complaining about different traffic, different things. There's some setbacks to it. It's not a glorious job, doesn't make a lot of money. But here's the thing. If you ask my dad why he did that, he's like, it pays the bills. That's fucking congruent. Someone nowadays might go, it pays the bills, like it's a secure job, I get benefits, I get a pension. Might say, oh, I wish I did something else. If he was to say, like, that's enough congruence for him to do it and feel okay about it. You with me? Now, if someone starts watching videos on finding your passion, which I don't know, this thing's been done umpteen times. I don't even know. Like, there's no specific to it, right? There's no specificity about that. It's like, find your passion. First, so this guy a couple days ago, first off, you need to be curious. Number one, you're curious. Okay, and then the next step, and then you find your passion. And I'm like, okay, so can we stop using these big general words? Like, do you see how I gave you a specific example of congruence? It's like, I think what people are looking for in their passion, it's like, obviously someone that trains in boxing, you assume that this person has a passion for boxing, when in reality, they could just be doing it because they're good at it and it makes money for them too. And they don't like fighting. But guess what? They create a lot of congruence because they get a trainer, they get an agent, they get fans. So now they have a lot of support. That's very congruent. So the congruence thing is a very big thing in your life when you're upset. You're probably, your job, your family, your friends, it's not lining up with your values. And that's when we all have problems. The problem now, it's hard for a lot of people to find values when there's so many options. And then the other thing, as far as American culture goes, in my opinion, there's a lot of bragging. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, look at me, how much money I have, and look at me, like that wasn't always like how it was when I grew up in the 80s and early 90s. And I think that creates a lot of competition. I think we just want to be happy inside. What I would say to that, PG, is the fact that It's there's this big thing now to be happy all the time, right? But it's also okay to be sad, dude. Because guess what? You can't taste the sweet without the sour. Vanilla Sky, great movie. Great movie. You can't know happiness without sadness or hurt. Where's the polarization? If you've ever met someone that's stinking rich, great looking, and they never know anything else, it's coming. They might be 40 years old and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I lost this, I lost that. It's like, welcome to the game, Holmes. Welcome. This is life. You think you're running everything? You think you got everything in check? Everyone gets humbled. Everyone. And if they don't, they live a shitty life because they start complaining about petty shit. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've been around people like that. I'm like, damn, this person, with the stuff they complain about. And don't get me wrong, I've been a complainer in my life plenty. Right? But I worked a lot of different jobs in my life. A lot of different jobs. And I've dealt with people that are wealthy and rich, and it's like, trust me, they don't got it all figured out. The happiest people are the people that help other people find simplicity in what they find contentment in. Like, for example, they find what's enough. That's the essence, myself included. It's like I said, right now, it's like, oh, you can have this. Oh, you can have that kind of car. Oh, you can have this. It's like, what's enough, though? What's enough? Oh, well, then you don't have ambition. Oh, you don't have this. It's like, what? When it rains, it pours, Mike. Ever since you mentioned that, me back. When it rains, it pours is what you remember from me, that line? Or the sweet without the sour. When it rains, it's pour. I can't take credit for that one. That's an old one. It's all happening for a reason, man. And that's one of the other things we all have to realize too, is finding the right people to help you with your problems. You know, I have a few new coaching clients this month, and now that I've been doing this for 6 years, I got better at it. I started this a long time ago. I just took people's stories, got a couple trainings, but a lot of it's just dealing with the people. And what messes up people more than anything is probably getting bad support or bad advice when they're in need. And sometimes it's no one's fault. You go to a friend, a family member, a coworker, and they mean well, but they give you bad advice, or they make you feel worse, or they pour it on. You go out. I'll tell you what, one of the best investments you can make is a good coach or a good therapist, someone that cares. And that's one thing that I always take as a compliment. My clients are like, wow, you really care. As if it's hard to find people like that. You also want to find someone that like you vibe with. Like, wow, this person's cool. Like, we get along. Like, they're not just trying to get through the session. I've worked in an environment recently. I was in the States and I had an office, and there was multiple therapists, some good, some bad. And when I say bad, I don't know them directly in their state. I just know their style. But that's just my opinion. That being said, a lot of them aren't happy either. They have their own issues. So I would say that, you know, getting the right help and getting the right mentor, getting the right space, like Eduardo just said years back, I remember this, and it was helpful or useful. It's important. I remember when I went through the 6-year breakup, I also lost my job and moved out of state, and all within a week. It does rain. When it rains, it pours, man. It fucking does. But guess what? The storm always stops, Holmes. Always, always, always stops. That's how it is, man. And guess what? When you go through the storm, it's much better than sitting on the sidelines with a fucking umbrella complaining to everyone. You need to go through that thing. You don't run from it. You don't run from it. That's the crazy thing. You can take a break. You can pull over for a minute. And just know, Eduardo, that when it rains, it pours. It's like that for everyone at different times. But you can meet people when you're young that have never been through a storm. Never. And their perspective is jaded, petty. But you meet someone that's been through a couple, they'll sit down and be like, what's wrong, man? Let's talk about it. Because they know that feeling. They know it. Benjamin, are you military, ex-military? Or current military? Actually, I have a lot of clients in the military. Great to hear from you, Eduardo. I remember a while back on Instagram, you sent me, you clipped a post for me when I used to do my show. Face the music, and looking back now, I'm glad it all happened. I became a better person beyond a simple relationship. I came out of the storm a better man. Fuck yeah. I love to hear that, bro. Are you still in Vegas? Because I know you're originally from LA, but you lived in Vegas for a bit. Nope, sir. No? Okay. Just because of the sir thing, I thought maybe. Sometimes you just got to lean into that thing, man, and just know that it's your time. It's your time to deal with some stuff. It's really your time. It is. If you really think about it too, it's like that's when you kind of shape your character. You know what I mean? When you watch a movie or something and something gets rough for someone, that's when you shape your character. It's like, all right, what am I going to do now? You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to take a break. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to do all those things. You are. Not the movies in the sense where it's only a 2-hour film and it seems like this dude just got back on deck in a day. You know, you watch the Rocky movies or something, it's a great movie. It's like Rocky turns it around real quick. Sometimes it takes people 2-3 fucking years. Remember, I had this client when I first started the channel. Really nice guy. Really excited to talk, really vibrant. And he was facing a serious storm. He had 3 sons. He was Australian, but he lived in Austria. Random, right? You meet so many people from YouTube, all over the world. It's crazy. And really good energy. And he was a massage therapist. No joke. Cool dude. And he was facing divorce. And, in the middle of us talking about the problems and the issues, and it looked like it wasn't going to work out. And this guy was a really upbeat guy. For what was going on, his viewpoint of it was, he was not a victim. He was fed up. He was upset about some things, but he was realistic. Really good character to him. And I don't know when it came up or how it came up, but he just dropped on me all of a sudden. He goes, for 3 years, I lived homeless. Excuse me? I mean, this guy had 3 kids. And when I say he was a massage therapist, I don't know if he'd want me to say this. I'll just say that he was a personal massage therapist for a very elite group in Austria. I think it was a ballet or something like that. It wasn't like he was just your average guy just getting by. Right? He had done it for 20 years. It's random. And when he said that, I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I was homeless for 3 years. What? He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, I was in my 20s. I was in Austria. He goes, I lived in a basement of a school, and some janitor had like left the door open knowing that he would sleep in there sometimes. These are the little things in life where like that janitor, that's a little angel out there, man. Right? So he said for 3, I said, why did it take you so long? He goes, well, the only person I had in my family that I could have called was my dad, but I knew I didn't want to do that. He didn't really explain like his dad and his relationship, but he had a lot of self-respect, and he said his dad would just tell him he needed to figure it out. But what had happened is he had broke his back, like bad, lost his job. So he said he had this really bad relationship with a stripper. Look at my memory. And she was a drug addict. And I was like, why were you staying with her? And he goes, intimacy was fucking outstanding. Okay. You're in your 20s, right? B5-0. So he's like, and he was laughing about it. And then he goes, we broke up, and I forgot how it happened, but he broke his back. Like he slipped out of the shower. It was something, could happen to anyone. So this happens, and then he lost his job, and he was out on the street. He couldn't recover, and he had this. And then he said, after a year or two, you're just getting by and this and that. And then he started giving massages in a fitness center or something like that. I don't know how he got turned on to it, but he dug his way out. But 3 years homeless. 3 years. And like I said, this guy was probably in his mid-40s when I talked to him 6 years ago with the 3 kids, and he had a wife and everything. And like I said, it looked like they were facing divorce, and they had all these different issues. But the way he was handling it was so strong. And he mentioned that to me to show, do any of us want that? No. Is that a fear some of us might have someday? Hell yeah. And he already went through it. So what does that do? It just creates less fear, right? It's like, damn, I went through 3 years of this. I know I'm not going to do that again. He's got a career to stand on. He's got 3 boys. So him divulging that to me was part of his therapy in the situation. And why is that? Because he needed to show someone, I've been through some shit. Right? And I looked at it and I was like, wow, I want to, how did that happen? Your life is, your life, my life, it's never ending. It's to be continued. You only have this long to live. Don't look at it like that. Well, have you ever seen these calendars where they're like, get this calendar and it'll show you how many days you have left on your life until you're 85. It's like, just be present, man. Excuse me. I was homeless for a gentleman's minute. I like that. Everyone's had a moment where they slept in a car or did something maybe. A good friend of mine, highly successful right now, he told me this story. Really tough dude. He was into wrestling. I don't know if that makes someone tough, but he was into real wrestling, right? Not the WWF stuff. But he said he comes back from college. He had a full scholarship, got good grades, was a good kid when coming out of college. And he said his dad was like, all right. He was home for 3 days, and his dad was like, look, you need to move out by Friday. And he was like kind of laughing or what? He just graduated. He's got to go out and get a job and different things like that. But he was no loser. He was a high achiever. And so Friday came, and his dad's like, you got till 5 o'clock. And he's laughing and stuff. And then it got to 5 o'clock, and he was like, his dad was like, I'm going to call the police. And he was like, what? And he goes, you got to go. He said, I left. I slept in the car for 2 days, and then I was at a friend's house. But he goes, it was so good for me because I just realized I got to do everything on my own and be self-reliant. Now, is that something that happened to me? No. But my dad, I think I was 19, was like, you got to pay rent for your room. And the rent then was, I don't think it was $275 he asked me for. I don't know how he came up with that number. But that's 23 years ago or 20 years ago. 23 years ago. And then it started making me think, I'm going to pay for this. I better get my own place. It only took me 2 months to move out after that. And you got to move out, folks, right? And a lot of clients right now living at home, and that's okay. That's okay, but you don't want to make it long term. You gotta find a way. It's tough too. It's tough sometimes. Iowa State, I think that's home of the great Brock Purdy. All right, we got 4 on deck. Don't be shy. I'll stay on for a little bit longer. This has been fun. Eduardo, you made my day coming back on deck, dude. You are appreciated. Is that Brock Purdy went there? Yeah. He's a legend already, man. I'm a Niners fan, so. Men are allowed to feel pain, but it takes waking up to feel love. Wow. I haven't heard that said before. I got you. Sorry for taking your time, but people need to hear you. For sure. You don't need to be sorry for anything, dude. This is an open live stream, so I like to interact. You know what I've noticed over the years, that I've gotten more clients that are like in their early 20s. And I would say that guys in their early 20s right now, they definitely should be having someone to talk to. And friends and family can be the people, but a lot of people don't have a father figure, or maybe their father figure is just not good at that. What's up, Miguel? How you doing, my friend? I hope you're doing well. And it's really important to talk to someone. I have quite a few people that talk once a week. And dude, I wish I talked to someone once a week when I was younger. And it's not always bad stuff. It's not always bad stuff. It could be like you're talking about work, or you're talking about school, or you're talking about who you're dating. And it costs money to do that. But I think it's worth it because you bottle a lot of stuff up. And if you don't get it out to someone that's going to be kind, give you real advice, and not going to tell all your friends and family, it can be very therapeutic, and it can really help you clear space for whatever you're trying to do. Because what happens is that you start carrying around this backpack, a suitcase with all your shit, with all your stuff that's unresolved, that you never divulge to anyone, and it gets heavy. Talk to someone once a week, you're lightening shit up every week. And you're also having to tell people about what's going on internally that you don't share with other people. So you bring it to the surface so you can clean it up. If you don't bring it to the surface and clean it up, you just kind of forget about it. It's kind of like having your garage full of a bunch of stuff that you don't use anymore. You start to clean out your garage, you're like, oh shit, that bike still runs? That's a bike I used to have fun on, like some moped, or you start looking through your stuff and you're like, wow, this, right? Like, oh my God. But when you clean that garage out every week, or you take inventory every week, it's a lot more neater, right? Saying that, I've always been the most neat person in my life. 6 on deck. Does anyone want to come on and ask any questions, or do you have any kind of questions that you'd like to ask me? It could be about relationships. It could be about a work issue. It could be about why the moon's white. That one I'm not sure of, but I could give you an answer. I agree with what you said. Having someone to talk to helps, especially for me now that I moved to a different area, helps you get everything out. Absolutely, man. I wish I would have done it when I was younger. I wish I would have done that. Like it just helps you clear space. Now, a lot of times, people that are really successful, their partner, girlfriend or boyfriend, husband or wife, whatever they want to call it, is that person. Sometimes the person you're with isn't good at that. That's not their lane. Wow. We say the same thing, sir. Cool, man. Why can't the 49ers win a Super Bowl? Well, they've won 4, but it was in the 80s, right? So things have to even out because those Super Bowls that we won in the 80s were so, I mean, every time we went, we won. We also won one in 93 or 94. So you being 43, know that. What's up, Kyle? Coach Kyle. I'm good, bro. Hey, coach, been a long while since I've been able to hop on a live. It's Josh who? Josh from the Bay? From the Biggity Bay? Is that who that is? If I'm correct. Can we talk about ghosting? Sure. Ask me any question. Yeah, the Niners fans got spoiled in the 80s, man. That's when I grew up. It's like every year we would just win. You know, so I was a kid, but I think that Ravens Super Bowl when they had Kaepernick was probably one of the toughest. How you been, Kyle? Everything all right, bud? You still hammering away on TikTok? I remember you were saying you're doing really well on that. We gotta get a Zoom at some point. I'd like to catch up with you, bud. Oh no, sorry, Joshu. Well, I have a pretty good memory. If you sent me your story or something like that, I'd probably remember. That's a tough one. It's still going really well, huh? The TikTok thing. Cool, man. Yeah, I've seen those videos on TikTok too. The crazy thing about TikTok too is it's not about high production. It's just about being on the topic, right? Because like your older videos had like almost like a higher production to it. How's yeah, I saw it on your channel. I'm like, damn, this is like, it's not as high production as you used to do. It's just different, huh? Oh, well, I hope you and the family are doing really well. Super low effort? Yeah. Like I said, when I saw your channel, I'm like, really? You know what I mean? Because you used to have the lights in the back and all that stuff. It's just TikTok is yeah, I'll get on there at some point. But you know me, I'm long form. I can sit and talk for an hour and 13 minutes. It's my flow state. It's just not good for business sometimes, huh? I'll get on there. I got a video guy that's working with me full time now, so that's usually my thing. I actually just realized you'll get a kick out of this, Kyle, if you're on deck still. I'll talk about this in another video or another live stream another time. But so I was talking to my hypnotherapist. This is one that I did training with, but I also, for sure, Kyle, I appreciate that, bro. But you'll get a kick out of this because me and you have talked about this before. When you do what Kyle does coaching too, primarily, I think for breakups and relationships primarily, but he also does business coaching, right? Right, entrepreneurship and things like that. But how many people you get that say that they're with a narcissist, borderline disorder, ADD, all these labels, right? And so I haven't disregarded it completely because it's a real thing. It's just that sometimes, you know, as a coach, you hear it so often and sometimes people are using it in a way where you're like, all right, I don't know how accurate that is, if you're just bitter or not. So the ADD thing, right? In America, ADD or ADHD. So when I was a kid, surprise, surprise, I was talkative. I was always in trouble for talking too much. Always name on the board. I don't even know if they do name on the board. 2 checks, benched at recess all the time, no exaggeration. Not in trouble for fighting, just talking over the teacher, making fun of someone, talking too much in class. Always. And then just the way my life's transpired and the way I look at things. So my hypnotherapist, like I said, when I say hypnotherapist, it's not like I'm getting sessions every week. This is someone that I trained with, like to do hypnotherapy. And it was a really good course, really good training. So me and her are talking, and so she did a hypnosis with me, and I won't get into hypnosis right now, but the way it works is you can talk during it, and you can kind of sift through some of your stuff in a way where you're in a really calm, meditative state. People have this misconception of hypnosis. It's ridiculous. It's highly therapeutic and highly useful. And so after we got done with the session, she's like, you know what? I think you have ADD. And I'm like, oh God, like in my head. And I'm like, right. And I have like 4 or 5 regular clients that have it. Like they interrupt all the time. Like when you get off the phone with them, like, whoa, like this person cannot pay attention. But we end up having a long conversation. Anyways, I read this book, Driven by Distraction, if you want to check it out, because I know you're a bookworm, Kyle. And I'm not saying you have it, Kyle. But after I read it, I'm like, oh my God, this is me. This is how I operate. And I didn't want to believe that. I was skeptical because I don't put labels on myself like that. And I certainly don't think anyone that has ADD, anyone that's a narcissist, you're still your own flavor of it. Does that make sense? Like you're still your own flavor of whatever you're labeling. So if you're a narcissist, there's John, Paul, and Sally are all different kinds of narcissists because there's a nuance to who they are. You with me? So when I read this, I was just like, whoa. Like it explains a lot. Doesn't mean that people are non-functional, and I'm definitely not too hyper. But it's good to know like how you think. It's good to know because sometimes we're not aware of it. We're just acting out and not knowing how we get to where we're at. And after reading that, I was like, okay. So the funny thing is, if you go to my YouTube channel, and Kyle knows this, completely unorganized. All different thumbnails, all different backgrounds, all different titles. ADD. Right? People are like, why don't you do this? Why don't you organize this? My organization in my mind is like for things like that. But on the flip side, what I'm good at is improvise. If a plan goes wrong, I'm totally fine. Confidence, totally fine. I want to do something. Coaching and a live call, totally fine. Do you need me to organize something in an orderly way? Sometimes can be difficult for me. It's difficult in the sense that it's so boring. And my mind just goes, I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to go on and on about this. I'll talk about it another time. But it was an interesting find. And it made me more understanding of those people that have that. And it's not one of those things that you can't function in the world or anything like that. It just makes you realize, oh shit, this is how I operate. All right, so Miguel asked, can we talk about ghosting? Let me just see what you asked. Also, the U.S. election in 3 days from now. I'm not going to talk about the election. That's a minefield, right? But I will say this about elections and politics, right? People don't realize it's a fucking opinion. They think their opinion's a fact. Okay? So like whenever you get into it, it's like, all right, you know what I mean? It's like, all right. I will say this. Whoever you're like, the idea, I've said this many times. Number one, you only got 2 fucking options. And you know how many million people we have in America, you got 2 options, right? The best people don't want the job. The people that would be the best for the job, that you think would do the, you know, the honest, great things for the country, they don't want that job. So we're stuck with these 2. Saying that, There's some people you don't like, and let me give you this example and you'll know what I mean. Oh, if you're old enough. Dennis Rodman, right? Dennis Rodman was this basketball player that's a little bit crazy, a little bit all over the place. He's an instigator. He's rude. He's just strange kind of in a lot of ways, right? But like, he would foul guys hard and this. But you want him on your team because he wins. Sometimes, you know, like have you ever noticed that, like in sports? It's like, I hate this guy. I hate this person. I hate this. It's like, would you take them on your team? Yeah, I'd take them on my team because they win. You got me? You always say, I'm Josh from the Bay. I'm Josh from the Narcissistic. I remember now because you did come on the show and you had a tough situation. You got a lot of kids, I think. I saw a video about why a girl or woman ghosts you. It's either because you did something weird or crazy, or you're neutral and the girl is too afraid to reject you. Miguel, here's my 2 cents on that, bud. Good question. Most of the videos out there, and Kyle would agree with this, they're trying to get something from you. They're trying to get your attention. But here's the best reaction, okay, if a girl ghosts you. Goodbye. Don't try to figure it out. You got other women to meet. Goodbye. That's good. Oh, you didn't respond for me for 2 or 3 days. Now, if it's someone you've been dating for a little while, like let's say you went on like 3 or 4 dates and you find like this girl's a nurse or a kindergarten teacher, she's sweet, she's kind, this seems really out of her element, then you have every right to go, hey, are you okay? Because maybe she got in an accident, knock on wood. Maybe her dog died, maybe her grandma passed away and she's got to go see her. You have every right to be like, hey, is everything okay? This is completely out of character. If you get ghosted by someone you met on Tinder, c'est la vie. Don't let it you did something weird or crazy. Don't put that shit on you. Relationships for dating right now, it's so different than when I was in my 20s with dating apps. Is it wrong? It just is what it is. You don't know these people. It's like, dude, if you called up someone let's say you had a termite problem at your house or an ant problem or something, right? And you're like, oh, let me call up this exterminator to come over. And then they come over, they're like, oh, I'm going to be there at 4:30, and they don't show up and they ghost you. And you're like, would you be hurt? No, because you don't know that person for nothing. You'd be calling them up being like, hey, do you want the business? And they ghosted you and they don't call you back. You're like, look, I'll call another exterminator. Do the same thing with shallow dating things. It's done. They've already shown their cards. They're flaky. Don't put it on you. Oh, you did something weird or crazy. Don't try to conform. Be you. Like you. There's a lot of things going on in other people's lives that you don't know about. Now, back in the day when I was dating in my 20s, it's like you worked with someone first. You went to school. You went to college with them. It was a friend of a friend. There was less flaking because you knew each other. Now it's just like, oh, I saw you in you know what I mean? So just don't take it personal and just let it go. But if there's someone you went out with for a little while, you can just say, is everything okay? Are you okay? Now, someone might go, oh, that's needy. I'm just saying if you feel like, oh, this is out of character for this person. And then if they still don't respond, all right, let it go. On to the next. Like I said, look at it like that. If you called someone over for a delivery and they didn't show up, you'd call someone else to deliver the same thing. I believe I hopped on a live video with you last year around July. My ex left me, married another guy 2 months after the breakup. Their wedding was 2 weeks before we were supposed to get married. I remember that was a tough one. You're a tattoo artist, right, Josh? She was, or you are highly. That's how good my memory is now. And you had like 4 or 5 kids. How are you doing now? Wanted to let you know my ex crumbled in court and pretrial when the judge realized she committed perjury, government financial fraud, and technically child trafficking. She gave in, so it never went to trial. So she's still free, but I've got my kids back in my life. I'm happy to hear that, bro. I just had chills go down my back. I'm happy to hear that. Good for you, dude. Good for you. And that was one of we were just talking about worst breakups. I said abusive and manipulative are the worst breakups, and the only way to get out of those is to get completely out. And you are getting manipulated. Dude, so many hockey players that are like that. You want those guys on your team. You know what I'm talking... Does that transfer to what I'm saying about the election? Now someone's like, oh, you like this person. I only have 2 options. We got team captains. We're picking a team. Who do I want on my team? Who do I want on my team to run the country if I only have these 2 options? Come on. The worm. First 6 months of the probation, they will eventually tell on themselves. Unfortunately, I'm back in a shitty situation. Was with a girl for a year. We lived together and everything. And then she started cheating on me with her ex and kicked me and my kids out the other day. Well, book a session, my friend. Let's talk about it. Maybe it's time we start. If you can afford it, book a session. We'll talk about it, Josh. Because you're running a pattern now. Right? No judgment, dude. It's just, this is what we do. We run patterns. Listen, I think Kyle would agree the same. From doing this for 6 years, I don't have any PhD. I'm a better human. I'm better at this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you what, I wish I would have had someone help me out. So whether you want to work with me, Josh, or you want to work with Coach Kyle, or you want to work with someone else out there, get someone and get into your head about why am I running this pattern? Why am I choosing these types of women? And don't take this the wrong way, dude. But take responsibility for your selection. We can be fooled, okay? People can change circumstances. But you gotta take a step back. Sometimes when you've been in like multiple bad relationships, okay? And you think, oh, I just have bad luck. Oh, these women are horrible and all this shit. You're a part of that shit. You got to be more selective, or you got to change where you're looking. And that doesn't mean like I said, don't think I'm just like, oh, like this is all you. This is a point now where you're like, wait a minute here, dude. It's like you're a tattoo artist, right? If I was correct about that, I got a good memory. It's like if you did bad tattoo work and they came back to you and it was running all over, like the face that you did looks like it's bleeding and all this shit, you take responsibility for your work, right? You'd be like, look, man, let me fix it, right? You think that these women that you are meeting or being with, there's something that you're not seeing. Or to be frank, sometimes the environments we live in, it could be the city, it could be the town, it could be whatever, the tattoo industry, I don't know. But you're frequenting around a bad crowd. And for that to get right, you actually have to take 2 steps back rather than 1 step forward. Does that make sense? You got to take more inventory and like, all right, let me clear some space in my head to reorganize everything. Because I don't want to end up with one of these camouflage crazies, as I call them. And the reason I call them camouflage crazies is like, no one would know. And then like 5 months later, you're like, oh my God, this person's crazy. You're not identifying something. Sometimes it's a lack of options, Ben. That's a real thing. It's like not everyone has the same dating pool. Oh, I take full responsibility. I had a feeling in my gut the whole time. Trust that gut. You're old enough to know that, Holmes. Was hoping it was just from the trauma, but it finally showed I knew right. Well, here's the thing, man. Just concentrate on being a good dad right now. I know you care about that. You've been through a lot. This shit's going to serve you. And I'm happy that you got your kids. See, this is why I do the long live streams, Kyle. I have that ADD. I'm just stimulated the whole time by the comments, by the thing. That's why I love teaching. your mind goes choo, 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 choo. Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it coming from you, bud. Focus on being a great dad, man. We need them. We need them out there, dude. Create some good little humans. You know what, dude? Like, to be honest with you, Josh, just take a break from dating for a little bit, man. Just take a break. You've been through a lot, dude. You gotta heal your wounds a little bit. I remember when you came on, your situation was tough. I'm not saying it's, like Kyle and me. I listen to a lot of different stuff, and sometimes I'm like, okay, this one's tough. This one's tough. But then you got the silver lining that you have your kids. That's where I'm at with it. Got to find my kids in a place, and my focus will be solely on my kids and work. We'll do this. That's my personal email, Coach Mac McCarthy. Not that seems like it's like, oh yeah, that's what it should be, right? Josh, you send me an email, and then what I'd like to do for you is let's do a session, and I'll give you like 2 hours, not just to air out all this stuff. But I want to do a hypnosis with you if you're okay with it. Hypnosis is like a guided meditation. I'm very good at this now, and it just helps calm you. And it's a recording you can listen to. And then we can discuss if you can pay what you can. If you don't have the extra money right now, then just tell me and we'll just do it. Okay? I'm sincere. Please email me. I'm not going to turn everything around in that hypnosis or anything like that, but it's a domino. It's a domino. And what it will do is it'll help redirect the ship. Do you understand what I mean about that? So a lot of times, myself included, you're going towards the same island over and over again because you don't realize it, but your subconscious is stuck in patterns. So sometimes when you redirect that, and when you're in hypnosis, by the way, like I've said this many times, you're not like you don't understand anything. You're just in this completely calm state where you can rewire things. When you're just talking like this, you're not going to rewire things. It just doesn't work that way. The only other way people rewire things is a traumatic moment, because the brain goes, don't do that again, and then the pattern changes. Another thing I've just started using, and this sounds extremely simplistic, but some of the best things are simplistic. Well, let me give it a shot, Josh. Let me give it a shot. We do it online too. People think like, oh, it won't be as good online. It's better online. It's completely fine. And just keep in mind, we're all different. Every therapist, coach, we're all different, especially therapy. It's like being a chef. It's like you go to a restaurant, we're going to cook different. I'm going to have a different approach than Kyle. Am I better than Kyle? Hell no. Shit, Kyle's had way more success on YouTube and all these things. Doesn't mean he's better than me with my clients. That being said, it's just approach, vibe, those kinds of things. If you're already on my channel and you like the live streams, then we already vibe. We already have rapport. Once you have rapport, once you have trust, then you can go a lot further. The problem is when you meet a stranger. What's up, Sabina? When you meet a stranger for the first time and they're your therapist or coach, you don't have rapport built in. That's tough. One thing that YouTube helps with, someone sees Kyle, they're like, oh, I just like this dude. He's got cool hair. I like the way he approaches things. I've always liked Kyle's channel and the way he talks and shit like that. So right away, you get through that, right? So when you go to someone just new or blindly, sometimes right away, you just don't like the way they dress. You just don't like the way they talk. And it won't be a good therapy session. It won't. You got to trust the other person. You got to think like, this is an authority figure that's helping me out. Unfortunately, in America, authority figures, it's like, oh, how many PhDs do they have? It's like some of them are really good, some of them aren't. So I think Kyle could say the same thing. I've signed up for a couple coaching things. No offense, but the certifications for some of these coaching things, there's nothing to them. You're good at this or you're not. You're good at helping people or you're not. I think people that have extra certifications actually, like the hypnotherapy certification I did, it was hands-on. It was a specific skill. You know what I mean by that? So, what's Colorado Buffs' old coach? Is that? So I'm missing something there. Yeah, I was shocked. Insanity. I've talked with multiple therapists. It's like both the therapist and the client have to be able to click to get that trust. It is, dude. I've had multiple clients that say, "Oh my God, I like talking to you better. Oh my God, I've talked to 5 other people." Doesn't mean I'm better. It just means I'm better for them. And so keep trying. Just keep trying. Try different people. I remember Clutch, who used to come on this live stream a long time ago. He had a coaching channel. His name's not Clutch, but that's what he went by. And he said he went to 19 different therapists and then found one. Okay. Hey, man, your brain is an intricate fucking thing, man. Your mind and the way you operate and all your experiences and your aura and all this other shit is intricate. So you just don't line up with people. Me too. Like I read people really well. And since I've been doing this a long time, my intuition's way better. It's something I don't talk about a lot, but like people come back and I'm like, wow, how did you know that? It's just when you do this kind of work. Oh, is that right? It develops. Your intuition develops just by being in tune with people. And so there's plenty of people I've seen out there that like, I've always told this story, and Sabina's seen enough live streams to probably hear this before. Right on, bud. Take care, Kyle. I appreciate you, bud. We'll interact soon. But years back, I remember an ex-girlfriend went to the dentist, and my mom worked as a secretary/office manager for a dentist for 30 years, something like that. So she knew dentists in the area. Was this some kind of great knowledge to have? No, it's boring, right? Because when I was a kid, if I had to get my teeth cleaned, I went to that dentist. But my girlfriend at the time went to this other dentist, and my mom's like, "Oh, you went to Dr. Wolf?" No joke, that was his name, Dr. Wolf. And my mom's like, "Oh, he's a crook. He overcharges people." And I was like, a dentist does that? I'm just seeing like, oh, this is a doctor. Oh, this is a dentist. This is a prestigious character in society. Yeah. They lie too. Yeah, some of them are crooks too. So my point is with therapy and coaching and all that, there's some good ones and bad ones. There's some really bad ones and some really good ones. A lot of the times, the ones that are cheap salesmen are some of the worst. I could tell so many stories. Yeah, we're 43. We're seasoned. Some lady asked me that. Oh, you do coaching? Oh, you help people with problems? Like, what's your background? What's your certifications? Because she ran some certification course. I'm like, I'm seasoned. Should have seen her face. She was like, what? What? Lived in multiple countries. Was a teacher for 13 years. Multiple relationships. Lots of books read. Probably over 1,200 videos on YouTube. I don't know how many clients. It's like I did a 500-hour course on hypnosis, and I've probably done 2,000 hours of hypnosis with clients. I don't know. But what's your these certifications? This certification for this certification. Then I found out I was in California, and I found out I was like, wow. So what makes gives someone the ability to certify someone? A lot of these certifications are just someone just printed it. And the other thing about university, and I was a university teacher, and I'm proud that I got my degree. I'm glad I got that done. I don't think people need it, but it was worth it for me. It helped me be a better thinker, right? Whatever. But here's the funny thing when someone's got, it's like, what if someone leans on, well, I have a PhD at Harvard. Well, that's something to stand on. I went to Stanford. Okay. Can I see your grades? Can I see your grades? What do you mean? Like, what was your GPA? Oh, I got a 3.5. What was your thesis on? What would your teachers say about you? What real world jobs have you had? Think about that one put that one in your pipe and smoke it. Oh, I'm a PhD at such and such. It's like, okay. That still doesn't stand alone to just make you officially, hot shit. If you divulge your work, it's like Andrew Huberman, great channel, but he doesn't create a lot of original content. He reads studies. So he's a great researcher. He articulates things very well. And he's got the Stanford degree of neurology. So he's got all those, you know what I mean? He's putting himself out there. But the idea that just someone has umpteen degrees or certifications or this or that, and they're great at what they do, that's fool's gold sometimes. You still got to work with them. Oh, fuck yeah, Josh. Just like a bartender. I've heard tattoo artists say that, because I've had a couple tattoo artists that are clients, that you're a therapist. You listen, right? Because they're in pain, so they're divulging shit, probably. For sure. Mac is awesome. He has that need engineering chemistry with clients. Thank you, Sabina. I appreciate you, hon. It's interesting how people show their true character in the first 3 months. Sometimes they hide it for longer. But it depends on how good you're out at seething it out. The best way to kind of have a cheat code towards people's character is how they talk about people that are friends or family, but they also, what are their I am statements? Those are big ones. It's interesting how most people show their, I have people hate on me saying I'm too expensive and try to take advantage of people's wallets. And I have clients who say I don't charge enough. Me too. I don't have people say that I'm too expensive, but they say that I don't charge enough. And you know what? It's different for different people. It's kind of one of those things. You're an artist in some ways, right? So people value things in different ways. So this has been really good today to get back on deck. This makes me excited for the next week or two when I'm going to start this out. Sabine, I just mentioned I'm going to start doing office hours more. What I call that is anyone that has a question or they want to dive into something, even outside of breakups, like I usually do right now. We're talking about everything and anything, maybe even nothing to do with relationships, which is how these live streams usually go, right? Lots of fun, though. I enjoy it. All right, I'm going to wrap this one up. So I think this has been good. I just want to say thank you to you all, and I'm going to run through whoever's still on deck. Miguel, if you're still around, thank you, my friend. Benjamin, BG, I hope to see you again. I'm glad you're doing well, and I hope this was good for you tonight. Like I said, I've had a few Benjamins on, but I don't remember seeing you before, and it's been a while. Joshu, I'm glad we clarified who you are and that you're not from the Bay. The tattoo artist. Eduardo Martinez, great to hear from you, bud. I'm glad you're doing really well. It is going to be curtains. For 10.5 years, I know my worth when it comes to my work. Hell, I tattooed the governor of Missouri. Is that what you're saying? M.O., if I got that correct. Yeah. Sabina and Kyle just left. Miguel. Yeah, this has been good. Missouri, yes. Someone would be like, you don't know the designations? I just, good old St. Louis, Missouri. Much love, sir, first timer. Thanks, BG. I appreciate you, Sabina, Josh, Eduardo Martinez. Yes, it is curtains. Till the next time, take care.